Thank you for listening to Scandinavian Crimes Podcast. Be sure to check out the episode links and be part of our other social media platforms where you can leave a topic suggestion or even share some of your insights regarding the subject matter of the episode. We'll always do our best to provide a well-researched episode, but sometimes due to limited access, translation issues, and inconsistent evidence between multiple sources, there can be information that's lost. It is therefore good to do your own research and get a deeper understanding of a case of your own interest. So with that all said, let's start today's episode.
Welcome to Scandinavian Crimes. My name is Devante, and say hello to my lovely co-host, Delila.
Hi.
And on this podcast, we talk about famous Scandinavian criminals who made their mark throughout Scandinavian history. Today, we're going to be talking about the Plejebo case. And forgive me if I butchered it, but that's what it says that's basically how it says to say it phonetically based on online, Google, and all that stuff. So if I butcher it, forgive me. But this is a case that was known as the largest murder investigation in Danish history, which began in October 1997 with the arrest of 32-year-old nursing home assistant Dorte Gramkow. Dubbed the Corridor of Death, the second floor of the Plee-yeh-boh nursing home in central Copenhagen became infamous. It was there where Dore-tuh was accused of poisoning and killing 22 residents. Authorities claimed her motive was simple: to steal money from the vulnerable elderly people in her care. But besides all that, you already know what to do. Grab your tea, grab your snacks. If you're on your way to work, tuck yourself into a nice little corner, because this is a story of Dorte Gramkow in the Plejebo case. In the spring of 1997, what began as a routine investigation into thefts quickly spiraled into something far more sinister. At the Plejebo nursing home in central Copenhagen, initial reports of missing funds from the elderly residents led police to uncover a troubling pattern of suspicious deaths at the facility. By October, the case had escalated dramatically, drawing in Copenhagen's homicide unit and capturing national attention. On October 20th, Dorte Gramkow, a nursing assistant at Plejebo, was arrested. She faced charges not only of embezzling 629,000 Danish kroner from residents, but also of murdering 22 elderly individuals under her care. Adding to the case's gravity, the nursing home's supervising physician was charged with negligence, accused of failing to properly oversee the medical treatment of the residents, which allegedly allowed the deaths to occur unchecked. The day after her arrest, Dorte appeared in the constitutional hearing that stretched over 9 hours. She adamantly denied the murder charges, but admitted to embezzling 5,000 Danish kroner, a confession she later retracted. Despite police confidence in their case and public assertion of her guilt, the presiding judge deemed the evidence insufficient to warrant her continued detention, and she was released. However, this reprieve was short-lived. On October 24th, the Eastern High Court overturned the court's decision, ruling that there was extreme suspicion in 6 of the alleged murders. Dorte was ordered to remain in custody as the case grew more complex and contentious. As the Plejebo case gathered momentum, it became a national spectacle, capturing the attention of both the public and the media. Copenhagen's health mayor took the opportunity to launch a broad investigation into nursing home care, vowing to address any systemic failures that might have allowed such alleged crimes to occur. Meanwhile, Dorte replaced her lawyer with the renowned Thomas Redam. His aggressive defense strategy would not only challenge the prosecution, but also shape the narrative surrounding the case. By late 1997, tensions between Thomas and the lead investigator, Detective Inspector Kurt Jensen, reached a boiling point. Thomas repeatedly criticized the investigation as poorly conducted and filled with tons of errors, publicly labeling it as a rush to judgment. In response, Kurt accused Thomas of using media coverage to manipulate public opinion and exert undue influence on the courts. In December 1997, the case suffered a major setback for the prosecution when Denmark's Supreme Court ordered Dorte's release. The court ruled that there was insufficient evidence to justify her continued detention, delivering the first significant blow to the narrative of guilt that the police and prosecution had been building. The decision called into question the strength of the charges and raised doubts about the investigation's foundation. As 1998 began, the flaws in the investigation became more apparent. The medical evidence that underpinned the allegations faced increased criticism. Experts began to challenge the conclusions drawn by the city physician, whose initial assessments had been central to the police's theory of deliberate poisoning. Legal experts, including Associate Professor Jørgen Vestergaard, were vocal in criticizing the investigation. Jørgen highlighted systemic failures in how the case was handled, arguing that the responsibility for the dramatic escalation could not be pinned on any one individual or authority. He pointed to inadequate medical assessments as a critical flaw, emphasizing the need for expertise from the Danish Health Authority in such complex cases. Additionally, the police faced backlash for their overconfident assertion, including a public statement by the lead investigator proclaiming, "In our eyes, she is guilty." Such comments were criticized for unfairly assuming guilt and influencing the case. Thomas seized on these inconsistencies, accusing the authorities of mishandling evidence and misinterpreting the deaths of Plejebo. He fiercely contested the prosecution, citing flawed medical reports and procedural errors, including the absence of top forensic experts' input. This led to a criticism of the Copenhagen police for their handling of the case, with accusations of bias and procedural errors. Despite these setbacks, investigators persisted. In June, they submitted an exhaustive list of questions to the Danish Council of Forensic Medicine, seeking definitive answers about the causes of death in the 22 cases linked to Dorte. However, the council's finding did little to clarify the situation. Conflicting opinions among medical experts only deepened the uncertainty, leaving the prosecution with no solid ground to proceed. In a parallel development to the murder investigation, authorities re-examined the financial charges against Dorte. Initially accused of embezzling 629,000 Danish kroner from Plee-yeh-boh residents, the police revised the alleged amount to 383,671 kroner after further analysis. Despite this adjustment, they failed to substantiate their claims with concrete evidence. Dorte steadfastly denied the accusations, maintaining her innocence beyond her initial admission of embezzling 5,000 Danish kroner, an admission she had since retracted. As the investigation into Plejebo case continued, cracks in the prosecution's foundation grew more evident. By late 1998, the case grew against Dorte suffered a critical blow when the state attorney general officially dropped all murder charges. The decision was primarily based on findings from the Danish Medical Council, which highlighted questionable medical practices at the nursing home but could not be definitively linked to them as deliberate criminal acts or determine the exact causes of death. The ruling signified a turning point as the once dominant narrative of Dorte as a serial killer began to crumble. In the wake of the dismissed murder charges, attention shifted to the supervising physician at Plejebo. She faced accusations of gross negligence, with claims that her failure to adequately monitor and treat patients had contributed to several deaths. A review by the Danish Health Authority revealed errors in 14 of the 16 cases they examined. These errors were considered significant, but were disputed by some medical experts who argued that the accusations were grounded in outdated medical standards and hindsight bias. The physician's trial commenced in 2000, 3 years after the initial arrests at Plejebo. She was accused of 5 accounts of negligent involuntary manslaughter, along with violating medical ethics by failing to provide appropriate care to patients under her supervision. Prosecutors claimed she administered painkillers instead of providing proper treatment. The trial garnered intense public attention, with debates raging over the boundaries between medical error, negligence, and criminal liability. In November 2000, the court delivered its verdict, acquitting the physician of all manslaughter charges. However, she was found guilty of breaching the medical act or lapses in professional conduct and was fined accordingly. In the aftermath of the case, reforms were implemented in 2002 requiring medical officers to oversee health conditions and medication management in nursing homes nationwide. Although Dorte was cleared of the murder charges, the ordeal left lasting scars on her life and reputation. In the aftermath of the case, Dorte focused on reclaiming her life and reputation. She was granted financial compensation for her unjust detention, initially set at 400,000 Danish kroner, but later increased to 700,000 kroner after additional negotiations. This settlement was seen by some as insufficient, given the profound damage to her reputation and personal life. Seeking to share her side of the story, Dorte authored a memoir, Dee's Story, which chronicled her experience. The book served as both a personal catharsis and a scathing critique of the justice system, highlighting what she perceived as a failure in protecting her rights and ensuring a fair process. In interviews and public appearances following the book's release, she repeatedly called attention to the damage caused by the investigative overreach and the rush to judgment that had dominated her case. The Plejebo case, once one of Denmark's most shocking criminal scandals, ended without any convictions but sparked deep societal reflection. The case concluded without a clear dramatic resolution, leaving unresolved questions about justice, responsibility, and how society treats its most vulnerable. While the trial provided closure for those directly involved, it exposed significant flaws within Denmark's justice system and public institutions. It highlighted the urgent need for reform in handling complex investigations, particularly those involving medical and ethical ambiguities.
So, I just want to, because in the beginning of the story, or the case, Devante mentioned, about what's going on in Denmark and stuff like that. Well, this case wasn't really like anybody's fault. They at least it didn't feel like they called it a manslaughter or murder. But I still want to compare this case with the Christina Hansen case that we have covered. If you guys are interested in that, you can go and listen to it. But basically, the 22 suspicious deaths at Plejebo could have been, because of either mistreatment, negligence, or possible motive for money, which doesn't seem, entirely impossible. It could have been the case, and she did kind of admit it, but then she retracted it, so it could have happened. However, because the victims were elderly, there wasn't really enough evidence to prove that this is true, because, as you know, elderly people can die easily due to age or health complications. So, I think because of that, it's so scary that is a very similar narrative that can be made with the patients who died in Christina Hansen's case, as they all had poor health and lifestyle issues that also complicated and made it easier for them to die. So it wouldn't have been weird for them to die. So until until the other nurse saw what Christina did and noticed her suspicions, and the deaths was like weird. And giving the lack of clear details about the true nature of the investigation or what truly was happening in the nursing home, it's hard to say whether the trial was fair or justified. On one hand, I believe it should be easy to sentence it shouldn't be easy to sentence a medical staff for patients' death without solid proof. But also, on the other hand, I can also acknowledge that there are individuals like Christina Hansen, for example, who may use their position of power to for personal gain, and I don't think it should be overlooked. So I think it's very important to have this discussion. And I'm not saying that Dorte is guilty or anything. I just think it's important to talk about this as well.
It's very hard to kind of gauge what the situation is.
Have a fine line,
You feel me? But yes, it's kind of hard, because I can agree where it's entirely possible this could have happened. Dorte could have did what she did, because she did admit to it, even though she did retract it eventually. But I know back in those days, the process in which they would do things in a lot of these homes and medical facilities in general were very questionable, because people had certain opinions about the elderly as we both know about children as well, you know, when people were taking care of like kids. But I think at least when a lot of people were complaining about, you know, the justice system, I forgot who it is who said it over here. I think his name was like William Blackstone or something like that. He was like an English politician, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I know people would say like they would rather, I think the quote directly was, I would rather see 10 guilty men go free before one innocent person be in prison. And that quote, I guess, is reflective of this case where whether she's guilty or innocent, the evidence didn't hold up. And there's no reason for the justice system to, as well as the system in general, because it wasn't just the court system, but it was just the medical staff and just the way they did things was flawed. And whether she did it or not, you know, that's all up to speculation. You know, we wasn't there. We don't know. But the system needs to be better so that way we can make sure we catch people and do things more efficiently. And we wouldn't want someone who's innocent to go to prison for something they may have not done at all. So in this situation, it's really tough because, you know, it's like, dang, like, yeah, there were gaps in the investigation, but I think most of the issue just lies with the medical system in this story. You know, it's how they did things. And I think that's what makes this far more difficult, which is why the case fell apart so quickly for prosecution. Because I think at first it was like, oh, yeah, we had this in the bag. You just
really need to have proof. Like, proof here is so important. And I think that's also like, if we compare it to the Christina Hansen case, like because of her colleague who was making sure that there were proof, she did have some type of evidence to back up her claims, and or else, you know, Christina would have never been caught. Mm-hmm. And it would have been hard to, because she was denying it for a long time too. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm like, proof and evidence is really important in this case. And I'm kind of glad that they were able to be like, okay, but we don't have anything that is like tangible enough to detain her, like even detaining her.
I agree. And also with the Christina Hansen case, I can admit it's because we saw the the show that was based on it. I'm like very super biased. Very biased. You are very biased. Because I'm like that coworker, like that's how I imagine the situation now because of that show. I'm like, yo, the coworker locked in. She got proof. She did everything she was supposed to do. Because the actors were actually playing that role so well. Like they were doing it so well. So that was like a really good, I'm biased on that one.
But how do you feel about the sentence that they freed Dorte, and but they ended up like kind of not blaming, I guess, but they put the responsibility on the supervising I can't say
was it the physician or the head nurse?
Physician, who was like charged with medical negligence, but was in charge of the manslaughter part.
Do I think it's fair? I mean, I know the supervisor only got a fine, so their life wasn't really ruined per se to the same level.
I guess reputation could have been like,
the reputation of her, like her professional reputation took a hit, but you know, she can recover. Maybe she did.
You know why? Because I couldn't find the information of the physician. I hate that word. Yes, I hate that word. I couldn't find the name. Everything was anonymous. There was nowhere to be found. But I could find Dorte's name everywhere.
Yeah, so even then it's like she's able to, so the head nurse or the supervising physician,
Dorte's reputation is already gone.
Yeah, so even now, like this is 2025, you know, so this is like the trial started into 2000. This is 25 years later. We can still see Dorte's name, but we have no idea who the supervising physician was, which means if we can't find out,
at least it was hard for me to find out. So
we might be wrong, but that shouldn't be the case if we can see Dorte. Like that's usually, they're in the same case. We should be able to see it. So something is going on with that. So the fact that her name possibly might be less known means her life was able to be recovered and she only got fined, which means it's likely she might not have even had to leave her profession. She kept her medical
license and everything.
Yeah. She probably was still able to go somewhere else. Yeah, I thought so too, actually. But
it seemed like it, but I don't know.
But she didn't. So it seemed like she probably was able to go get another job somewhere else and do what she got to do and call it a day, in which I think is, I don't know, I think it's not quite fair, I guess.
It's so hard. This case is so hard because like I can also agree that, you know, sometimes if, you know, the doctors might not have the time to actually do everything, or they might do, you know, fail and mistakes and stuff. So like it's so hard. Like maybe I'm biased or something, I don't know. I feel like this case is just so complicated.
Yeah,
I can't really have an opinion. I feel like I understand both sides, honestly.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, because of the lack of information we have, we truly have no idea like what to think, because one, with this information we just don't know, and then two, this is not just a one system failure.
Not only that, I'm just conflicted.
I mean, I agree. Like, I'm conflicted too.
I'm
conflicted because like I feel like there's multiple systems that failed, you know, or did things improperly, and I can't really make an opinion about who's to blame or who's not to blame or what. Like, so I'm like, I don't know. You know, I think at the end of the day, they probably did the right thing, because they probably felt conflicted too. They was like, I don't know who to believe here. So they probably just was like, you know what, a fine for this person. I'd rather, you know, Dorte not be found guilty, because already the public probably doesn't have a good opinion of us doing so. So they probably took the safest route possible, truthfully. But I'm conflicted as well.
At least she got some compensation, but you know.
Yeah. So let us know what y'all think. You know, I don't know what to think about this case at all. Maybe if you're from the Denmark area, you can give us some opinions. If you were, you know, around during that time, that would be great to hear some more details. Maybe you have some information that we don't have, and let us know.
I just want to say something.
Yes.
So I don't think we did like a foodie thing last episode.
We did not.
So I think we should do it today.
Of course we're going to do it today.
I like strawberries. Strawberries you like. Me like? Yes. Good.
I like potatoes.
Honestly, I like potatoes too. I'm going to boil some potatoes right now.
Some mashed potatoes, some good gravy. That stewed chicken.
No, I just want to boil it with salt and just eat it like a savage.
I'm about to say, that's Neanderthal behavior.
Yes,
just boil it and eat it. Then again, you are in the Swedish Nordic area. That's very normal. You guys love potatoes.
I used to hate potatoes, but like, if you found a really good potato, you can really make it yummy.
That's such a Nordic thing.
No.
Potatoes,
it's not a Swedish thing. It's not a Swedish thing. No.
Like, hey. I'm going to go for, I do like potatoes, but officially, I think I don't know. I haven't really been craving. I'm lying. I have been craving something. I want a really good birria.
A what?
Birria, you know the...
Oh, okay.
You know, we went to the Mexican spot, you know, they dipped it in the...
Yeah, I know what it is. Calm down, sir.
That was so good. That's what I'm in the mood for. Some good birria. Nice.
I mean, now I want to change my mind. I feel like my potato is just like being completely overridden by your... like...
It's funny, we said nice at the same time. It's like, nice. I'm so dead.
Well,
we're
thank
little
you all
foodies.
for listening. We appreciate you. We love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.